All right, let's get started. Good morning. Welcome everyone to the webinar about the Green Bank's Solar Municipal Assistance Program. This is the Green Bank's primary resource for supporting towns to go solar and realize energy savings. I see we've got about a half a dozen Connecticut towns that have joined us today, so that's great. Hopefully you'll be learning about the program and participate in this year's round. I'm Emily Basham. I'm a senior manager at the Connecticut Green Bank, and I'm joined by Mackie Dykes, who's the Vice President of Financing Programs at the Green Bank. Fiona Stewart, who is a manager on our finance team and who is our Green Bank Solar PPA expert, as well as Alan Sabins, who's a managing partner at CSW Energy, who is our partner for the Solar Map program. This webinar is being recorded, and the slides and recording will be posted on our website and I believe emailed to everyone who's registered. I believe everybody is muted at this point, so if you've got questions as we go through the material, feel free to use the chat feature of the webinar platform to ask any of your questions or comments. We will definitely leave time at the end to answer those questions and have a discussion. So with our time today, we've got a 45-minute webinar. We'll spend 30 minutes introducing ourselves at the Connecticut Green Bank, explaining what the Solar Municipal Assistance Program is, as well as the Green Bank's Solar Power Purchase Agreement, and the next steps for getting involved in the program, and then jump into questions. So the Connecticut Green Bank is a quasi-public state agency. We were created by the legislature in 2011 to provide financing for clean energy projects, so solar projects, energy efficiency projects, and our goal is to really help the state meet our state climate goals and provide support to every sector in deploying clean energy. The Solar Municipal Assistance Program, or Solar Map team, is a handful of us at the Connecticut Green Bank. And we've also partnered with CSW Energy to support the Solar Map program. CSW Energy has a lot of experience working with municipalities to develop solar PV projects. And they're supporting us by helping us analyze building portfolios and the solicitation of bids from solar contractors. So Solar Map. At the Connecticut Green Bank, we have been financing solar PV projects at municipalities through our PPA for almost a decade. So we know that there are a lot of steps to getting these projects done. And many of these steps come before there's a project to finance. So we really created this project, or this program, excuse me, to make it easier for municipalities to access renewable energy and achieve energy savings by providing the support for every step of the process. So through Solar Map, the Green Bank works to help municipalities develop solar PV projects on their municipal property. And we do that by analyzing your portfolio of buildings, identifying where the solar opportunities exist, connecting you with a qualified contractor through a competitive process, and providing you with attractive financing through the Green Bank Solar Power Purchase Agreement. And we'll get into more detail about what the PPA is here shortly. And I'll just note that this program we created 2 years ago. We've had one round in 2020, and we're excited about round 2 here in 2021. It's really geared towards municipalities who lack resources or experience for solar procurement internally and would require technical assistance to put solar on municipal sites. So that's what we hope to achieve with this program. And all the projects that we're proposing with this program are behind the meter solar PV projects. So the installations are located on the sites that they serve. So this program is essentially kind of a one-year engagement from initial meeting, here in January through the calendar year to signing agreements. So this slide kind of gives you a little more detail about what we're doing in that year and how we're providing value to do these projects. So first, the solar map team will meet with you to understand your municipality's goals. We'll gather information like what buildings are suitable and ready for solar, and identify any other kind of key stakeholders in your town that should be involved in this process. So that might be facilities people or maybe your Board of Ed, and we'll explain, what the solar map process is in more detail. Then using the information that you provide, our team will perform an analysis on your municipal sites. So we'll review energy demand and site conditions. We'll identify opportunities for solar projects, and we'll work with your team to develop a list of on-site solar projects that would use our PPA. There are really like 2 pieces that anchor these projects, and that's participating in the utility incentive program, which occurs in the summer, and securing a qualified contractor to build the project. And those 2 pieces we will, help navigate you through. So we will solicit proposals from qualified solar contractors on behalf of the municipality, and we will secure needed incentives. And once we've got those 2 pieces in place, the solar map team will work with you to execute the PPAs, including supporting you on any council meetings or any approvals that are needed, and then begin construction. And so now I'll turn it over to Mackie Dykes to explain what a power purchase agreement is. Mackie, I think you're muted.
I was indeed. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Emily, I think the slides went down. Could re-show those. There we go. Thank you. So as Emily said at the outset, my name is Mackie Dykes. I'm the Vice President of Financing Programs here at the Green Bank. As Emily was talking about the program, clearly a lot of focus was on the PPA. So I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about exactly what a PPA is. So it stands for Power Purchase Agreement. And this is the actual contract that enables, Emily sort of went through all the work we do over the course of the year to design systems and find contractors to build them. This PPA is the actual both financing and sort of contractual mechanism between us and your municipality to make the solar happen. And it's a great structure for municipalities to get solar done, as we'll talk about here over the course of the next few minutes. So how does it work? So the Green Bank is the actual owner of the system. So the panels will be on the the roof of your buildings or covering your parking lots, but we will actually own that system and sell you the electricity that's produced by the system. And you will so you'll benefit. Instead of buying that electricity from your utility, you'll instead buy it from us. So you will, you'll still get an electric bill from your utility. It'll just be a lot less than it would have been otherwise, and you'll separately get a bill for us for the power from the solar system. And us as the owner, we're responsible for everything that comes with owning a solar project. And so all that responsibility, the development, the construction, and the operations and management over the term of the PPA all falls on us. Next slide. So why do this? I mean, the first clear benefit is the electricity cost savings. So on the left, this is the scenario you're all in now. You get an energy bill from your utility, either Eversource or UI, for all the electricity you consume in that building. After we do the project, that energy bill will go down because you're not buying as much electricity from the utility. Instead, you're getting a good portion of your electricity from that solar system. And the price for that electricity from the solar system is much cheaper. As we'll talk about here in a little bit, from our first round of solar map, it was either a range of 20% to just above 50% cheaper than the electric utility rate. So you're buying the same amount of power, it just costs you less from the solar system. And you're able to realize the pink box here in this drawing, savings, along with all the the great environmental benefits of going solar. Next slide. Additionally, in addition to that that cost benefit or the savings benefit you get, there's other benefits of utilizing this structure. There's no upfront cost. So the Green Bank, as the owner of the system, is responsible for all of the development and construction cost. You're locking in a steady and predictable electricity rate. As you're all probably aware, utility rates can fluctuate pretty widely over time, go up, go down. The long-term trend is for them to go up. But with a PPA, you're locking in that rate for 20 years. So it starts lower and it remains what we can certainly expect to be lower over the course of 20 years. Your cash flow is positive from the beginning. Again, you have no capital outlay here. You just immediately start saving money from the benefit of the lower cost of electricity, and we bear all the headaches of ownership, all the O&M cost, all the responsibility is on us, and the risk is on us as opposed to you. If that system doesn't produce, we don't get paid. So we have every incentive to make sure that it's up and running. We are constantly monitoring the systems. We're doing preventive maintenance and making sure that it's performing up to expectations. And again, our incentives are to make sure that's the case. And one other thing worth mentioning, the other option for you is, instead of going solar through a PPA, is to just buy the system yourself. But most municipalities, most of our non-federal tax-paying customers, nonprofits, the state of Connecticut, choose to go the PPA route just because a lot of the incentives for solar are available through federal tax credits. You don't pay federal tax credits, or you don't pay federal taxes. So essentially money left on the table, and the economics just aren't as good for purchasing the system versus doing it through a PPA. We, with our private partners, are able to monetize those tax credits and pass the benefits on to you through the lower PPA rate. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Fiona Stewart to talk about some of the towns and municipalities we work with in Connecticut.
Great, thank you. Hi everyone. So we haven't finished a case study for round one yet, but
we did want to present our kind of flagship town, Coventry. When we created the solar PPA product here at the Green Bank, it was created back in 2014, and our first town projects were completed with the town of Coventry in 2015. They took it to heart with eight systems in total. They split it between both their town buildings and their municipal and their Board of Education buildings. There are 8 projects in total, and you can find out more about this case study on our website. It's on the solar map. It gives a breakdown of the amount of solar, the expected savings, and we just like to highlight that, and we're looking forward to bringing around our case study after solar map round 1. Here you can see the number of Board of Education and municipal projects that we've done with a number of municipalities throughout Connecticut. We encourage you to reach out to your fellow towns to get their experience. And great, oh, we're on to the next slide. In terms of round 1, we had 5 municipalities participate with a total of 17 projects. Those 17 projects account for 3.5 megawatts of solar. And in terms of what we're able to offer for discounts to the current utility rates, it's 22%, between 22% and 59%. And that's it for me.
You're muted, Alan.
Yes. Thank you, Fiona. Alan Sabins here, CSW Energy. Good morning, and thank you for attending. I am here to go over some of the sample deliverables as part of the Solar Map program. If you want to mind, next slide. So one of the first steps is the ability to obtain addresses for municipal and Board of Education facilities that would be under consideration for the Solar Map program. And what we do at CSW Energy is we take the address information in and we correlate the address with a number of criteria for a desktop review. That desktop review starts with looking at the facility itself and looking at the applicable roof to determine if there's a minimum geography or square footage for a system, along with looking at that roof to determine if there are any obstructions, which would be HVAC units, high parapet walls, etc. In addition to any impact of shading from trees in the relative area. If in the event the roof does not look like a suitable location for a project installation, then we'll look at the applicable ground space such as carports and or ground mount space. Worth mentioning, all of this is meant to correlate to meet the minimum system size threshold, which is 50 kW AC. And once each of those desktop review criteria has been met, looking at each address, then there's a determination whether or not it would pass or fail the desktop review criteria for Solar Map. Once that is complete, then we would take the list of sites and the results and meet with stakeholders once again to review this and work toward getting an on-site visit in place. Next slide, please. Once that on-site visit has been conducted, we then gather all the applicable information, which would include electrical room access, prospective roof access, and or a site walk in general on the grounds. We then compile all that information and provide that to the Green Bank. From there, we also put together a conceptual design which is here on the right. With that, we provide a prospective system size along with the anticipated or forecasted production in kilowatt hours. And then also in reviewing the utility bills, we're able to come up with an effective utility rate or an avoided cost rate. And that is then compared against the results of the Green Bank's PPA pricing modeling. And really the hurdle is whether or not there is an ability to offset a minimum of 10% of the effective utility rate as referenced above in the table. And then we also illustrate what the forecasted offset will be from the prospective solar that would be installed on site. Next slide, please. And essentially all of that information then makes it into these tables here, which is meant to illustrate the preliminary savings based on the minimum threshold, which is that 10%. So you'll see that there in the savings calculation, as well as the assumptions on the right in terms of how a forecasted preliminary PPA rate correlates with the effective utility rate. And this is meant really as a starting point, because once we have this information available and we talk through it again with key stakeholders and we're able to receive authorization to move forward, then the Green Bank will go out and secure those relative incentives, being primarily ZREC through the ZREC program. Then we would facilitate a competitive RFP process, as Emily mentioned in the outset, to identify that contractor. Once that has been done and their pricing has been updated into the pricing model through the Green Bank's PPA program, then there's an ability to refresh the really that hurdle rate again, that 10% discount from the PPA, which the expectation and goal would be that that PPA rate would come down through that competitive RFP process, identifying the contractor. And that's what we have in terms of the deliverables from the program. I'll hand it over to Emily to further discuss and go over the benefits of the program.
Thanks, Ellen. So we've provided a lot of information about the program steps, how a power purchase agreement works, highlighted some of our case studies and some of the benefits that have come out of round one of the program, as well as the sample deliverables that Alan covered, showing just our minimum savings thresholds and how we provide value along the way to each town that's participating. And we've got a couple more slides here, so I want to encourage you guys to use the question feature to go ahead and start entering any questions you have on what we've covered. We'll take questions here shortly. And before we do, I just wanted to highlight a few of the program benefits that we've come to really realize through the first round of the program. There's a lot of different ways that you can go solar, as Mackie mentioned, and a lot of different partners. So we offer ourselves as a quasi-public state agency to be a trusted partner in helping you explore the opportunities in your town. This year marks the final year of the utility incentive program that we mentioned. So we want you to be able to take advantage of those incentives to really get the best energy savings out of a solar project. As we mentioned, there's a handful of towns that are on this call. We'll be doing a lot of outreach to other Connecticut municipalities that we identify as, being good candidates for this type of support. And we walk all of these towns through the solar map process concurrently, so that as we enter into an RFP process to find a construction partner, we're actually bundling everyone's projects together. So your town participating and going solar through the Solar Map program, you would benefit from being part of a larger group of projects that receive kind of economies of scale. We did see in our last year's RFP process, as Mackie mentioned, we were able to further drive down the construction costs by offering a larger portfolio of projects. So we want to be able to help you receive that competitive pricing. And really, this whole program from start to finish is just trying to provide you and your town support to really look at solar opportunities, identify them, and move them through the process to the finish line to go solar. And one final slide in terms of next steps and what the timeline looks like. We'd really like to get in touch with all of you after the call to set up a one-on-one meeting with our team. We'd be happy to review this program overview and talk about the opportunities in your town or your city. And another way to kind of jumpstart this process would be to submit a list of your municipality's addresses. We saw that in the desktop review deliverable that Alan covered. That's a good way for us to take a first look at what opportunities are in your town, if any, to do a project. It also helps to identify who might need to be in an initial meeting. And we can usually do that kind of initial review in 24 or 48 hours with a list of addresses. So that's another idea that can come before or after a one-on-one meeting. So those are kind of the short-term next steps. On the slide, you'll see a number of the longer-term steps. So I'll just kind of gloss over this. We have initial meetings here in January. And the first quarter of this year, we'll be working on, doing the analysis and identifying what projects could be real projects that you'd like to move forward. The only commitment we ask of is a letter of intent after we've developed those projects, intent that you're serious about moving forward. That enables us to enter those projects into the incentive program and secure incentives. And then we also put those projects in our RFP pool. We anticipate running the RFP process this fall after the incentive program. And then we look to actually bring back final project numbers, final savings after the RFP to execute the power purchase agreements by the end of the calendar year. So starting in January, ending at the end of the calendar year with signed agreements, and then construction would begin at the beginning of 2022. So with that, we've offered a lot of information. Again, we will have all of this information available to you. And I'll just take a moment to look and see if we've got any questions yet in the question queue. And encourage anyone to go ahead and either type it in, or I believe there is a raise hand feature where I could unmute you, and we'd be happy to meet you and answer your questions if you'd like to speak. All right. Let's see if I can make this bigger. All right, we've got one question so far. Does the solar installation include battery backup to smooth out variances in day-to-day solar energy? So I'll open it up to my fellow panelists, whoever wants to jump in, answering about battery inclusion.
Hey, this is Mackie Dykes. None of our projects so far have included batteries. The economics were not there. But when I say that, I mean couldn't deliver a cheaper PPA rate than your utility rate with the battery, just because the cost of batteries was has been high, and the sort of the policy structure, the incentive structure for batteries in Connecticut just wasn't there. However, really both those things are changing. Battery prices have been plummeting, and we're now seeing, actually just yesterday, the Green Bank, along with the utilities, were charged with creating a residential and commercial battery storage incentive program. So, we expect things to start changing for batteries in the near future, and it's something that if there's interest in that, we can begin to explore it.
Great, thanks, Mackie. All right, any other questions we have now? Be happy to unmute, or you can put them in the chat. Give you guys a couple minutes. And to our panelists, if there's anything else you wanted to add and let folks know. Got another question. Can batteries be added at a later date? And the short answer is yes. Alan, I don't know if you want to talk about kind of the technical piece of that.
So I would say that yes, the short answer is yes. We would just want to have an idea of what the facility goals would be and prospectively include that as a reference in the RFP.
Mackie, anything to add about batteries at a later date?
Nope. I think whether it's now or in the near future, as the landscape around batteries changes, it's something. I think that's kind of why the next step is to start looking at particular buildings and understanding your needs, because we can when we actually get to the RFP portion, we can craft each of these projects to meet those. If it's whether it's bringing batteries later or trying to get them now. We can sort of personalize each project to meet the building's needs.
Great. All right, we've got one other question. Does the solar array have to be on the same physical property and tied to an electric service for, say, a town building? I can start with that if others want to add. It does. So all these projects are behind the meter projects, meaning that the array is installed physically on that property and it's serving the electric meter that's located on that property. There are other programs that exist out there to kind of pass along that solar benefit to other buildings and other electric accounts. That's a separate program. This one specifically looks at each site and what the energy demand is at that site. And then we would size the system kind of based on what that need is. Does anybody have anything else to add to that response?
This is Mackie. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. It doesn't have to be on the roof. We can do carports or ground mounts around the property, but it does all need to be on the solar needs to be on the property that's being served. The program that Emily's referencing, it's a virtual net metering, which is a utility program that allows you to build offsite solar to benefit municipal buildings. It's currently full. There's no credits available. So, that's why we're focused on these behind the meter projects that we can get done now.
Thank you. There's an additional question. Do the towns receive any credits for excess energy produced on weekends or when the buildings are closed? So that's a great question. You want to make sure you're taking full advantage when you need the energy, and what happens when you're not using the electricity immediately. You do receive credits in the sense that all of these projects use something called net metering, where essentially what you're not using instantaneously is credited on your account for use later. So essentially you can think of your solar system kind of providing your needs, and the excess, whether it's at night or during a rainstorm or a very cloudy day, that energy will go to the grid, and the grid is essentially acting sort of like a battery for you, so that when you are using the building and you are needing energy, you can draw on that credit when it's needed. And that's something that we also kind of take into the accounting of when we're looking at your energy demand. We're looking at what that building's usage is over a year. So we're looking at all totaled up through the year. How do we offset that demand amount? All right, I think we've covered the questions that have been submitted in the queue so far. Got any remaining questions? I think we've got 5 minutes left in this webinar. Great. All right, I don't see any questions now, so we'll end a couple minutes early. I want to thank everybody for their participation today. Really great questions. You'll see in the chat, I've entered in my email address. If you are interested in enrolling or have additional questions, definitely get in touch, and we will provide additional information through your webinar registration, including the slides and the recording, as well as our website. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we look forward to future conversations with you in your town. All right, thanks everyone.